Hi guys, so I hope this video finds you well. This is going to be another, hopefully, not another quick, because the first one was very long, but hopefully this will be a quicker tutorial on how to make a face mask, because what I wanted to do was do some embroidery on it. That'll help you know which side is front and which side is back, right, when you put it on, and always try to put it on the right way, in case you go from one place to the next, and then, you put it on backwards, and that's not going to help too much. It's kind of defeating the purpose, right? So I will have the link to the CDC, the Center for Disease Control out here in the US. That's what our, I guess, authority would be, right? For information about wearing fabric face masks. Basically, the point of it is for you to wear it in case you're symptomatic or asymptomatic. You don't know that you're sick, but you're still carrying the virus, and you don't spread around everywhere when you go to the grocery store or wherever other essential place you need to go. So that's the point of them. I know somebody had left a comment on my last video like, unless it's an N95 mask, it's worthless. Okay, well, yeah, like that's not the point, right? Those are for our doctors and other people to wear that really, really need that. This is for us to protect each other. Not so much that you're not going to get, any of these droplets or whatever. So the link will be there. The link will be there for the JoAnn's pattern. That's where I got the pattern from. Last time people kept saying, where's the link? And the link is in the description box, like always. Anytime there's a link on YouTube, it's in the description box, right and below this video. And there's probably already a link below here for the CDC because YouTube has been doing that. But I think today it's just going to be kind of fun because, if you're going to wear it, you might as well dazzle it up, do something fun. It's going to be very basic, okay? So I'm going to use my Disney embroidery machine by Brother because it's super easy to use. Otherwise, I would use my Futura Quintet, but that means I have to bring out my computer. I have to bring out the machine. It's huge, but it also sews. So in this situation, I have the embroidery machine from Brother, but I have to bring out a regular sewing machine to sew the mask. But I will be using things like a cutting surface, just like this simple one. You usually use a self-healing mat to cut with. I'm just going to use a ruler. This is not a quilting ruler. This is just a ruler I have, but it's basically the same as a quilting ruler. I just didn't want to go look for everything that I have to do this. I do have some quilt basing spray. I use this sometimes, but you're supposed to use sprays that are made specifically for embroidery machines, but even some embroidery machine makers will tell you not to use it because you're going to void your warranty if it gets all gummed up or things like that. So use this at your peril. That's what I want to say about that one. And then I do have like my rotary cutter just to cut things easily and quickly. There's tons of things in here that I probably have like 4 or 5 of these guys. But basically this will just help you cut your fabric easily. I'm assuming if you have an embroidery machine, you probably have a lot of these things because that's a little more advanced type of thing to have around the house, right? Instead of just your regular sewing machine. So what's funny is I already have blue embroidery thread loaded into my machine from the last time I used it. And I was like, I want some fabric that's just plain, still 100% cotton. And I forgot I had gotten this in a grab bag, mystery bag that I ordered from Crafter's Companion. And it's cotton fabric. It says linen look, 100% cotton. I have not washed it, as you can see. You definitely want to wash yours first, just in case there's any shrinkage, especially if you're going to embroider on it, because if it shrinks, it's going to get kind of funky looking because you embroider on something that was going to shrink, right? So make sure to wash your fabrics first, but this is for this video. I'm not super concerned. And it's like a light blue color, powder blue. And I was like, oh, well, that'll coordinate with the blue that I want to use. So what I'm going to do is cut these things down to the sizes that are in the pattern for the JoAnn's pattern. And really their pattern is not JoAnn's pattern. It came from another medical society or something or other, but the link will be there for you guys. But basically that starts off with a 7x9 piece of like a square, 2 of them. So I usually just leave it doubled over. And the last video I just used regular scissors and things to cut this. I am going to just kind of eyeball this for now. And I'm just cutting the main portion. We also need, I think they're 1.5 by something inches for the side, 1.5 by something else for the straps, and we'll talk about that when we get there. For right now, I just want to set up for embroidery. So the Disney machine is fun because it does have to cut your not to cut, but to do like Mickeys or Minnies or things like that. So I might do that, but for right now, we just need to cut this 7x9. So I'm going to go 7. In the last video, I cut it by 5. I messed up because I was looking at the numbers backwards. So we do need this to be 7 inches. So I'm cutting on 5 because to 12, just the way this is set up, that's 7 inches wide. And to be honest, I would love to know that this is straight. Let me see how am I going to figure that out. I'm not a super stickler on stuff like this, but we do want it to be a little bit straight so it looks nice when we're done here. I'm just using my ruler here and lined up with that. I'm going to cut off the selvage edge in just a minute, so let's just say that's about 7. Okay. And then we need to cut it by 9 in the other direction. And I'm not taking off the little bolt just because I don't feel like, but you can definitely do that. And by 9, which is here, but we're going to cut off the selvage edge, so let me do a little extra. I'm doing about 9.5. I'm going to put this to the side now. And then we're going to cut off that extra piece over here. So again, by 9. Oh, that was perfect eyeballing because all I have to do is cut this off and it's nice and straight. So now there's all kinds of things about sewing in a pocket or doing all these things. If you want to make a pocket for like a filter, which they were saying just basically a napkin, because napkin you can breathe through it, but it's thick enough that it holds more droplets, or you know, whatever it is. You can definitely just put another liner. I would do this and then add another liner for a pocket, but I'm not doing anything fun like that today. It's just this. So I'm going to use this to embroider on. Our two pieces are already facing each other. They're already facing, you know, the ugly side, I guess, but they look pretty much the same on both sides. If you have a printed fabric, that's fine. Maybe even if it's just like a little kind of a muted print, you can still embroider on it. It'll look great. So I'm going to bring over my embroidery machine. The first thing we're going to do is embroider, and then we're going to make it into a face mask. Okay, so I'm going to turn my machine on. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of this machine yet. I do, like I said, I already have the blue embroidery thread in here, but if you need a more basic tutorial on just that, I have tutorials on that. I'll have them in the description box also. So we turn this guy on, and I always forget how to start. Oh, there. So you want to have your thing up here. The carriage of the embroidery will move. That's fine, whatever. I'll just say, okay, this is gonna move. I don't have this in here yet because I'm gonna set that up obviously in just a minute. So if you wanted to just put a character, you know, you do those things. I'm gonna do the words, thank you. I don't know. I mean, I think there's lots of fun things you can put on this, you know, whatever little message you want to give people when they see you, I think that'd be great. Or, you know, we're in this together, things like that. I think something nice. So with this machine, if I go to the next set, it's Japanese characters. So I'm just going to pick this one because it's nice and thick. And the size of the letters, it's not letting me pick the sizes quite yet. So I'm going to say thank you. So I need to find our T, capital T. And then see, now it says large, medium, or small. And I'm going to do medium because a lot of times the large is really large and I can't put more than a few letters. And I need, you know, H. So I'm going to keep looking for that. Go back to A. Go back to N. Think. And then I want the U to be in the next line. So I'm just going to press enter. And then U. And this is basically so the people that when I go shopping, they'll see it. You don't have to talk too much and put too many droplets in the air in case you're not well and don't know it, or at least carrying the symptoms here, or not the symptoms, but the virus. Now we'll go over to exclamation point, thank you. And that's it. And I'm just going to say set. And there it is. Now there's lots of things I can do with this to mess around with it. You know, it's up to your machine. Obviously this is the PE 550. If I had known that they had the embroidery plus sewing machine of the Disney one for Brother, I would have bought that. But this was less than $300 on Amazon. So I was like, hey, pretty good. You can edit your font if you're not happy with that. You can rotate it. So that's the other thing. You can rotate it. You know, supposedly what we're seeing here is how it's going to print out here. So if you rotate, you might be able to get bigger letters in there. The other thing is you can make it thicker. I do like a thicker lettering, so I'm going to increase that. That's pretty much as thick as it's going to get, 120%. And then if you want to see about the size or change that, you can do that too. Or you can move it around. I'm just going to say edit end. And here's where I can see, well, I haven't loaded it up yet, but let's go ahead and get this thing ready. So I'm going to move this over. I was hoping this would be quick, but I don't know how quick this is going to be, guys. Sorry. So I always like to put my backing. You can do the kind of, you know, you just wash away your stabilizer basically. I put it obviously in the back. You can put it in the back and on top of your fabric. You can put it just on top of the fabric. I always put it in the back and on top, and I'm trying to grab one of these, and of course it's, if it feels super thick, it's probably that you have 2 or 3 of them stuck together. So just kind of make sure you have one piece of this stuff. And if you have 2, it's not going to hurt anything, but so we have that. Let me see, that's going to go that way. I just have to set this up. Oh gosh, let me see if I can show you guys here. And again, if you want to use your basting spray, do that. Now, okay, 7 by 9. So it's going to be showing the words this way. If I put it on here this way, 9 long, the words are going to be facing me this way. It's going to be sideways, right? We want it to be facing the right way. So I am going to do this. And you know what? Let me go ahead and just give this a press. So if you want to press these things, it's up to you. But what I want to know is where the middle is, so I know exactly where I'm trying to get my words. And it might be off a little bit, to be honest. I'm not really good at setting this up so that it's right in the middle. But that's good enough. I kind of have an idea. What's really weird is that this machine will show you where it's going to sew. But by that time you already have it put in here, so you have to keep adjusting it and bringing it out and all these weird things. So I just kind of go for it. I'm not super picky. Where is... I was looking for this. Okay, so this is our little guy here, our frame, and you match up the arrows to arrows. So I have my arrows here. I think I need to move this down so I can kind of eyeball it on here where I am, what I'm doing. And bring it here. This is really thick sandwich, so I have to open this up probably a little bit more. Yep, that's as open as it's gonna get. So I can see already it's probably a little bit too much to the left than was on the right, but again, that's good enough. And we could have sprayed the basting spray in between this and this, but I'm just gonna leave it alone for now. And just kind of get that ready. So this thing is supposed to help you eyeball and see what you're doing. I don't know how this works, to be honest. I've never really used it and thought, oh, that's great. But it's basically showing you this is the area that you want to sew in. This is where it's going to embroider. It can't embroider lower or higher than this. This is basically it. So might go a little bit higher. I take that back. So basically, if you leave it centered, your words are going to be in here somewhere. So I like that, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and the presser foot is already up, but I raise it a little bit higher just to get this in here, and then we clip it in. So again, depending on your machine, however your machine works, I have to clip that in there. And I already have the blue embroidery thread set up. So if I click on this little button over here, I'm going to readjust. This machine will show me where it's going to sew, which is kind of nice. Like if I press that and then press it again, it says, look, I'm going to sew right in this area. And they want to know if I'm good with that. And I suppose I am. So I'm just going to say okay. And I'm trying to see if I'm doing this the right way. I hope I am. I hope so. If not, we'll have to do something else. Okay, so I'm going to click embroidery. And I already have my thread in there. I'm going to place down my foot and just say go. And I mean, this machine's pretty smooth. It should just start printing out whatever it is that we put in there. It would be kind of fun to add a character, but it's just the same thing. I have to switch out the colors in between. So maybe I'll add a character. I'll do another one. I don't know, we'll see. But I'm gonna let this continue working and I will be back. Okay, it's finished embroidering. So, okay, and that was it. It did pause in between the thank and the you in case I guess I wanted to make you a different color, because you can mess with that if you wanted it to be the same color. So I just pressed, again, the green button and it just did what it needs to do. And so I think, all right, that's it. So I'm gonna lift this up. I'm gonna release my thing here, and then to get this out you always want to lift the presser foot a little bit higher. So I'm going to clip these extra little strings, but for now that was it. I did not have to use this whole carrier, the stabilizer, because obviously look how tiny this is and I just wasted this whole piece. But I always hold on to it. If I have another project where there's something small, I can just pop that behind there or wherever. So I always keep this. And now we have our thank you. Again, I'm going to trim away all these little extra pieces. And I'll leave that. What's funny is that this stabilizer, you can breathe through it. That's actually a really good filter, but it's, you know, that's up to you. So what I'm going to do is put away the embroidery machine, bring out my regular machine, and we will get to the portion of actually making the mask. Okay, oh, my son was cold and now the heater's on and I'm like boiling up here because I'm right under the vent in my room. Especially because you're upstairs, it's hot already. So, hopefully I can stay focused because that's the kind of thing that makes me feel crazy. So, what we have here is, I'm going to show you the pinning, even though in the other video I went through it very, very clearly because this is probably the trickiest part. So all you're going to do is, well, okay, so right before this pinning part, you're supposed to sew around the edges 1/4 inch to hold this together. But since we embroidered, it's already holding together. I don't need to do any of that. But if you want to do that, go ahead because it'll just give it some more sturdiness. 1/4 inch all around, right? Just sew it. I'm not going to do that. So we're going to move on to just the pinning. So the pinning is interesting. So I'm going to have my ruler here, which is not the easiest ruler to read from, but that's okay. I'm gonna line it up so it's on one of the inches. So at 1.5 inches down, we're supposed to put a pin. And then from there, you're gonna put a series of pins. Ooh, this was open. Ooh, when I pulled it out, it kind of dropped pins. Well, these are nice because they're nice big pins. So at 1.5 inches down from the very top, we're gonna put in a pin. So right here, 1.5. Okay. And then from there, 1 inch later, you're gonna put another pin. So I'm gonna hold on to this. Another pin, 1 inch down from that one. And then 1/2 inch from that one, we're gonna put another pin. So 1/2 inch. And then 1 inch from that one, we're gonna put another pin. So you're kind of doing your math as you go along, but we're gonna do another pin here. You know, I'm going down the ruler and I'm going backwards because it started at 13. And then 1/2 inch from there, we're gonna put another pin. And these pins are just helping us make our pleats. And then 1 inch from that one, we're going to put another pin. So that's the 1/2 right here. Okay, so these series of pins are going to help us make our pleats. If you just have a dressmaker chalk or just a white crayon or whatever, you can just mark it, or even with a pen if you don't really care, if you're just marking on the very edges. That's all you need. It's basically just helping you line this up. So now what we're going to do is pick up our face mask. And the pleats, we're going to bring this first. And that's the part that's confusing about this pattern. It says bring 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, you know, and people get confused. So this first pin, we're going to line it up. So I'm pushing back because we're going to make a pleat and line it up with that next pin. Okay. And then we can remove both of those pins because they were just there for placeholders. Take one of them and pin it back. So now we just made a pleat. So now we're going to take this 3rd pin to the 4th pin again and pushing back like to make a pleat. And that little pleat, I'm going to bring it back up or down. Since we do have a direction on this because it says thank you, you want your pleats facing down, okay? I mean, what I'm trying to say is if you did it this way, it's going to be facing up, right? So make sure your little pleats are pushed back this way. Again, match them up as well as you can. This isn't rocket science. And just pin it. And this time I pin my pin the other direction. It doesn't matter. And then the last two, the 5th and 6th pin, match them up. Again, pull those out. And pin our pleat. Now, if you're a perfectionist, and I've already talked about this in my other video, you would be ironing these or however you want. But I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. And, you know, it's probably better to do it at the same time. That way this side doesn't have to, but it's okay. I mean, it lays flat. I'm going to do the same thing. Pin just where it told me to put the pins and match them up, and I'll be right back. So I just want to show you on the other side. I made my little marks, and we'll do the same thing again. So we're just going to match up 1 and 2. Making sure our pleat is facing the right way, right? Folded them down. And I'll continue matching them up on this side too, and I'll be right back. Okay, I probably should have set this up before I started coming over here, but I'm going to move some of these things aside. Oh, there goes that. And we are going to sew. So if you had done the 1/4 inch stitching all around, all you have to do is just follow that again. But for now, since I did not do the 1/4 inch stitching, I'm just going to bring my machine over. And this is the oldest machine in the world. And I did this on purpose in my old video, just so that people can see you don't have to have, you know, all the bells and whistles for this to work, right? So again, you should, you know, if you're embroidering, then you probably have a very good familiarity. I kind of finger tucked all these just to make sure we're kind of on the same page. You know, everything's lined up nice and straight. I mean, it's a pretty straight line there. The edge of your presser foot is 1/4 inch. If you have your needle in the middle, that edge should be 1/4 inch. And hopefully everything's in here. I now have pink bobbin thread. That's the only thing I have not switched out, and I'm not going to switch out, so we'll just get started. So hopefully, and be careful with your pleats once you get there. Make sure you're pushing them in and not letting them kind of get stuck or anything. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is add our binding kind of on the sides here. And I guess really, I mean, if you're really good, you probably could have done this all in one shot, but let's do the steps and steps like this thing says. So you guys know I had extra, when I cut this piece off, the extra piece on the bolt was just as wide as what I cut, right? Remember I had like an extra piece. So all I did was just continue cutting that. So that was basically a piece that was 7 inches wide by however long that was left. And you need a couple of pieces of this stuff. You need 2 strips that are 1.5 by 6. And I just used my rotary cutter, just kept cutting 1.5 inch strips, basically the rest of the length, whatever was left after I cut this piece. And so then I cut 6 inch pieces from that. So 1.5 by 6. And what you want to do with these, and I just finger fold these just so I kind of have a good idea where the middle is. Again, press it. Yes, press them with a nice iron, however you like. I just kind of do this kind of thing. Believe me, it's not that big a deal. I don't even know which is the front or the back. I think this is the front. But obviously, if your fabric has a direction, put the nice side of the fabric facing down, because what you're going to do is sew up these sides, and that's going to encapsulate this really nicely. Now, it depends. So if you're going to do it here, what you're going to do is sew it, and then you're going to flip this around and sew the other side. And then you have to top stitch it. So what I'm going to do is always sew on my straps from the back. So when I do my top stitching, I can see that it looks nice and pretty, okay? Unless you want your top stitching in the back, however you want to do it. Just pick one side to do this with, right? So it's always going to be the same side. So it's either always going to be on the back side that you're adding your strips, or it's always going to be on the front side that you're adding your strips. And that just makes it easier. I am going to pin them just for an extra precaution to keep them straight, but normally this is the kind of thing I would skip. And we're going to do the same thing on both sides, right? So fold it in half, line it up, stitch it 1/4 inch. So I'm going to do that with both sides. When I come back, both sides will have that 1/4 inch strip. It is hanging off the ends of both sides, so this is just extra so that you don't, there's no way to mess this up, basically. So they gave you extra fabric there for this part of the stitching, but I will be right back. So I just finished that. I'm going to do the same thing on both sides, but for now, just to finish up one side and then move on, what we're going to do is take that off, and you have your middle part, right? So again, we're going to bring this up over and bring it up towards the front, right? And you still have to do another fold on this one, just to fold it under. So you're just basically bringing this cuff to the middle, that middle line that we had pressed, and then up over. So as you can see, that encapsulates those edges and makes it look really nice and pretty. And when we're done, we're going to cut this off. So what you're supposed to do now, let me go ahead and pin it because I want it to look nice. I don't even have a chair, you guys. I'm just standing up doing this, so that's probably not the best way to get things done, but here we are. All right. Again, I am going to pin it just so it looks a little bit nicer. So again, if you want your top stitching on the top, or if you like it being on the bottom and just having a clean look on this front side, I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to top stitch it from the top, and that's what's going to be visible. But if you like the look of this, and you did a nice job, better than I did here, I did my stitching, this would be the front of yours. So just pick which side you like, you know. And so what we're going to do here is basically a 1/4 inch top stitch, but, you know, it depends. So for me, I'm going to line up to the edge of my fabric, and I think that's a good place for me to go from. But if you want to just do a 1/4 inch, then do that. But I'm going to keep it really close to the edge there. Sorry, I could see that my thread was too short, it was going to pop out. So let's just start there, and I'm going to keep it real close to this edge so it looks nice and neat, hopefully. And I had mentioned in my other video, you don't have to go back and forth at the beginning of these because you're going to encapsulate every single one of these. The only time you have to reinforce the ends is the very, very end when we do the straps. So this part is going to also be sewn in later. So I'm going to go across this whole edge, and I'll be back. I'm at the very end here. I'm just going to cut this off. And we could have trimmed this down at the beginning, but I kind of like trimming at the end because we don't need these pieces, and I kind of like keeping it there the whole time. And so now all we're gonna do is cut this excess. And that's nice and basically where you want it. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this other side. Okay, I'm at the end of this guy and just gonna take this out. I do not recommend sewing standing up. My back is killing me, but you know what? I just don't want to go get a chair. Okay, and I told you guys I would trim these things away and I didn't even do that. So the last thing we're gonna do is add the strap, and that's what's gonna hold it to your head, and that's what's gonna keep this looking good. So that's why I really like this pattern. It's really easy to work with. Now, since I just used whatever was left on that strip, I could have cut strips that were 40 inches long. We need 1.5 by 40 inch strips because I had a whole yard, right? But I used the scraps, so just like in my old video, I'm gonna show you. So these are 26 inches long, that's what I had left. Plus another, let me see here. Yeah, about 14 inches. So these are probably gonna be 34.5 by the time I'm done, but that's okay. And just like I showed you in the last video, just line 2 of them up together, or 3, however many you need to splice together to make a 40-inch strip. And I'll just do that real quick. I'm gonna do the same thing for the second strap. And basically I'm just making a larger strap with that. So don't waste your material. Don't feel like, oh, I can't do it because I don't have material that long. You can just splice it together. It's not a big deal. And for this one, what we're gonna do is fold it in half so the ends meet. Okay, really give it a nice crease in that middle. And again, with this one, you're also, another way of doing it is folding it in half lengthwise, so you kind of have a good idea of what you need to tuck in and all that. Just like we did on the very side pieces, you're gonna do the same thing, but this is a longer strap now. So now, after you do that, you can also fold your mask in half and see where the middle section of that is, and just kind of give it a little press, just so you have an idea where it is. You know, it's like right here. So you take the middle of the one that you folded here, your long strap, take the middle of that, and I am going to work from the back because that's what I did before, right? Because I want to do my top stitching nice so where I could see it. Let me make sure that is the middle. There's a lot of lines on this thing. Again, press your fabrics. I'm going to meet those together, put a pin, and I'm going to pin this along to the edge here. Okay, and I'm gonna double check my pattern for 1 second. Yeah. I made these a couple days ago and I was like, I think you're just gonna sew now. So we're gonna sew that, but again, if you're really good, I guess you could just go on and do the whole thing and sew it once, but you're gonna sew 1/4 inch here on this one. Same thing I'm gonna do with the bottom, the other side, right? So let's get this going. 1/4 inch. And yes, you're starting in a weird spot, right? You're starting where the strap is hanging off, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to just sew down the 1/4 inch here, and I'll be right back. At the very end almost. There we go. And remove that. Now, this is kind of what I was saying before. I folded it in half lengthwise, so I know where the middle section is. But to be honest, if you just eyeball this, it's not going to hurt anything. But if you want to do that, just to, you know, check out my old video, because that one has more in-depth explanation. This time I'm just kind of getting it done. So again, we're going to fold it back. Now when you go to do this, I'm going to turn it over. This also needs to be folded back, and that's kind of why I was telling you go ahead and mark the half, because basically you're going to need this thing to go right to the middle, right? So basically a 1/4 inch down or so. And then we're going to flip this up over what we just sewed, that raw edge, and also tuck in this other side, the other raw edge, right? Just like we did the first time. So if you had marked the middle, then you would know exactly where to sew. So what I'm going to do is go and pin this. So you see I just kind of eyeballed that just to make sure. So we're keeping this edge in, and whenever you have something like this, you fold it out, the joining there. So I'm going to fold this in, fold this one in, and then up over this raw edge. Okay, I'm gonna do that for the whole edge, and I'm gonna pin it as I go along, and I'll be right back. Okay, I do want to mention when you get to the end, as you're doing your pleating and bringing this in, at the very end, what you want to do is tuck this in about a 1/4 inch, and then fold it over, and fold it over, and fold it into the middle. Oop, that's opening up. That's not good. All right. Okay, so this is the part that's a little more crucial. This is it. This is what's going to hold this thing together. So again, I started on the back to flip it to the front because I wanted to do my stitching like that. Now this very last piece, you can, before I was making a little right angle here, but you know what, that's too much. So all you have to do is basically just make sure that you caught that end piece, right? It's not gonna undo, and that's why we kind of folded it in, so it's already kind of done nicely. And all you're gonna do is follow down your strip here. Ooh, I hope that didn't mess up my bobbin. That sounded bad. Let's see, it's because it's very thick, this part. I'm gonna have to walk it through. Yep, let me fix my bobbin. Oh my goodness, you guys, on this ancient thing, I had to take apart completely the bobbin. Not just tearing it out. I mean, take the thing out, take the thing, like the whole mechanism. I probably should have made a video about that because I do get questions about that from people about old machines, but that'll be for another day. Okay. So see, it doesn't want to move. I'm gonna have to like walk it through. It didn't give me this much trouble last time, but this fabric is thicker, so I don't blame this poor machine for being like, what are you doing? Okay, there we go. So again, we are top stitching. I am on the front of my mask. So when I come through, I'm seeing the pretty side of what I'm doing. I'm not very good at top stitching, but I will be right back once I get closer to the mask. Okay, you guys won't believe I had to switch out the bobbin completely because it ran out of thread. So then, oh my gosh, it has been a disaster with this little guy. But again, older machine. Obviously I should have had the bobbin ready, but okay. So now I'm getting close to the mask, and the same thing. You just keep following your top stitching, however close you were to the edge, right? You know, you want to do it nicely, and I know I get kind of veered off the edge. It's because this machine's old and it doesn't really, it wants to do its own thing, right? The presser foot is very tight. And I'll just keep going until we get to the very end of this whole strip, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, so I am almost to the end here, and all we're going to do is just keep going. And I did mean to tell you at the very beginning of the strip to go ahead and reverse your stitches just so you can have a nice secure stitch. But I know it's hard to do when there's so many layers of fabric at the end there, but like right here, I'll just reverse and then go forward again, and that should do it. So even though me personally, I had a lot of hiccups with my bobbins, hopefully it'll go easier for you guys. And that'll be fun. So I'm gonna obviously trim away all these other little strands. I'm gonna do the other side, and exactly the same. I'm gonna start in the back, and then flip it forward, and do the whole strip. All right, and this is it. I went back and forth a couple times, so I was just letting that go, and that's it. So it's the same as we showed before, or I showed before. I have better tips. I did do a better job this time, though, I'll tell you that much, because my other top stitching was not very good. I'll have some pictures for you guys with this on, because I already know it works great. If you want to make this for like a kid size, I would say go, so this was 7 by 9 to begin with. I would do maybe 5 by 7, you know, 5 by 7, and then do your pleats maybe ½ inch apart, but start it a little bit higher, right? So instead of 1.5 down, I would maybe start at 1 down and go from there. So I mean, you can make the same thing really cute, put a little Mickey on there, I mean, whatever you want. So sky's the limit with embroidery, right? So thanks for watching, guys. I hope they gave you some tips. I hope you try it out, and I've heard a lot of good things from people that did the last tutorial I did, which was basically the same thing without embroidery. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye now.